Hello again, I am Jim Bob, and welcome back to another episode of Estancia Lapacho. And as you can see, we are ready to start our sugarcane harvest. We've got our harvester here, prepped and ready. We also have our Valtra pulling two of our sugarcane trailers. So let's get everything fired up. And get a worker hired, because we obviously need to drive alongside. And let's start bringing in our sugarcane. So we have a huge amount of sugarcane that we need to get harvested. I genuinely have no idea as to whether or not this is all going to fit into our silo behind us there. It may well be that unfortunately it's just too much and we have to store some at a grain elevator as well. I think that may possibly be the case. I've also done a little bit of contract work while I was letting this grow in, just to pay off some of our debt. So I've earned like an extra $70,000 or so. And that's just gone straight into paying off our loan. So you can see we have a little bit of negative debt at the moment. We do have around 70,000 available if we were to extend our loan. Our field of sugarcane, not sugarcane, sorry, our field of soybean is also fully grown and ready to harvest. You can see in the background there, just behind the house and the tree, the big pink tree, that we do actually have a yellow field there. That's our soybean crop. As I say, it's all ready to harvest. And the AI is actually planting some sugarcane for the first time, I think. That does look like it's planted sugarcane. I've yet to see sugarcane planted by the AI, so this will be the first time if it is sugarcane. Kind of really curious about that. I'll give you the chance to actually drive one of these without the worry of harvesting, if that's the case. You see we're laying down all these cuttings here on our field. I did actually slightly damage this crop as I was doing one of the contract missions, actually harvesting corn. It was on field 6, that field behind us that's now what looks to be sugarcane planted. In fact, actually I'm going to check. I'm going to see if that is sugarcane. No, it's not. It's spuds. I was really kind of hoping that we would actually get sugarcane. It kind of makes sense because, bar one mod trailer, I don't think there are any actual trailers that can effectively hook up to the back of this thing yet, which is a little disappointing. So it means that you don't really get the opportunity to do much harvesting yourself. You have to kind of rely on the AI to run the harvester, and then just drive alongside with trailers, or have someone else helping you out in multiplayer, which unfortunately is a luxury that I don't have. It's pretty tight with turning as well. I mean, it's no problem for the harvester. That thing is tracked and can turn on a dime. But with our tractor, especially with two trailers, it's a little bit more awkward. We're going to do this harvest using these orange trailers. These are the TT trailers, I think. Should move on to the second one already. Yeah, there you can see they're the TT Colossus trailers. But we may well be getting the Massey trailers for the second harvest that we do on these two fields. This particular harvest we'll do with obviously these Colossus trailers. Financing is still a little ropey, despite the fact that we have paid off a little bit of our debt. It's still a lot higher than I would like it to be. I'd like to bring that down a bit before we start spending money again, upgrading our equipment even more. Plus we do need to start thinking about buying additional fields as well. We only have the 3, 2 of which we've got sugarcane on for 3 harvests worth at the very minimum, really. This harvest and then 2 more to follow before we'll have to clean the field off, which gives us an opportunity to maybe plant something else. So we're kind of relying on just field 14 for all of our grain work outside of that. and it's so tight up here. What I'm actually going to do, if I go to the harvester, is I'm actually going to give us a little bit of a headland, so we've got a little bit more room to turn. Because it is just a little bit too tight around all these other fields. I don't really want to damage the crops on those if I can avoid it. So, as I say, we'll put in a headland just to give us a little bit, well, a couple of headlands I think, just to give us a little bit more turning room. Ooh. I think we might need to upgrade the engine on this as well if we haven't done already. I can't remember if we did or not. Oh, this is awkward with these with these two trailers attached. Really awkward. This has been my overall kind of experience so far with sugarcane, is that it is awkward, both in terms of planting and especially when it comes to harvesting. It is quite a tricky crop to work with. It's very I wouldn't say temperamental, demanding, I think is perhaps the right word. You do need to have, you know, enough space to be able to make your turns without risking damaging some of these other fields. You do have, you know, a very tough time when it comes to planting, simply because it takes so long, but as a payoff for that you get 3 harvests worth for every field that you plant, which is always a bonus. And on top of that, you know, when it comes to harvesting, it's really quite finicky. It's very fiddly. Having such a narrow working width and equipment that is not really ideal in terms of turning circles and things like that. Oh, and we're full already. Didn't take long to fill our 2 trailers, did it? That's 40,000 litres. We are definitely going to need larger trailers. I still don't quite have enough to be able to buy one of those 60,000 litre trailers for transporting. They would definitely make things a lot easier. So we're just going to have to kind of do it like this. Drive up to our silo. See it bouncing us all over the place. Oops. Why won't it? Oh, I'm on the wrong thing, that's why. I'm on the tractor, not the trailer. There we go. Let's unload. Pull forward a bit more, and hopefully I can unload the second one at the same time. Yes, I can. That's good. Helps speed up the unload process a little bit. That's the first one done. And the second one. So let's get back onto the field and continue with our harvest. It's going to be a very long, laborious process harvesting all of our sugarcane. And like I said, I don't even know if it's all going to fit in there. Certainly 3 fields worth of harvest will not fit in, or sorry, 3 rounds of harvesting will not fit in there. That'll be 6 fields worth in total. That's a huge amount of sugarcane. Way more than we have the capacity for storing in just that silo. So long term we are going to have to be sort of selling off pretty much, I think, after most of our harvests. Or we keep 1 in storage and sell everything that we harvest from that point on once the silo is full. It's like I say, it's just another aspect of this particular crop, is that it is such you know, it has such a need for large amounts of planting. The storage requirements when it comes to actually storing the crop is, you know, massive. More than we can actually cope with, even with this new modded silo that we have. So we are definitely going to need to install more of them. If we're going to run this as a plantation, we're going to need substantial numbers of these trailers, sorry, of these silos, to make this an operational plantation. Here you see the problem with these two trailers when you're trying to reverse them when they're linked together. Very fussy. Like I said, it's a very finicky, very demanding crop when it comes to working with, both in terms of planting and harvesting. There we go. Just try and get a little bit closer. We'll do a couple of, I think one more pass after this along the top, just to give us, as I say, a nice little extra bit of turning room, and then we'll go back up and down the field again. And this is a big old field, field 2, as you can see. So we can get some close-ups of the harvester itself in operation. You can see there it's cutting the tops off, and that's what's falling to the ground and creating that sort of ground texture, and then everything else getting pulled in and shredded through the base of the harvester there. You can see the sugarcane going up the conveyor. It is awkward that, you know, we just don't have that kind of really good working ability with these harvesters, that we have to kind of literally spend our time chasing them with a trailer. When we're in single player, we can't run them at the same time. Or at least that's the general feedback that I've been hearing from a lot of people, is that, you know, I think bar one mod trailer, nothing really seems to connect at the back of this harvester, despite having the trailer attacher hook. So maybe an update might be needed from Giants to make it a little bit more user friendly. We'll see what goes on in that respect in the future. Let's see if we actually get into the insides of the machine. So you can see it there kind of going through a centrifuge by the look of it to spin its way up. See the waste there being spat out. You can see it sort of through the waste a little bit. You can see it going, I think it's going down through that little spiral at the back of the machine before it then goes up the conveyor. Got to be really careful not to damage that field just there. I think that's probably enough of a headland, so let's add a bit more, you know, space this side now, so that we're not turning into the second field quite so quickly. Now I'm going to turn this around. This tractor really does not like pulling these trailers. They are really heavy. I don't know if that's you know, an error, or if they are just meant to be this heavy when it comes to general movement and acceleration. The tractor is only running at about 180 horsepower, I think. Maybe, no, I think it's 210 horsepower that this has actually got, this T-Series. But we can up it to 250, and I think we're going to need to do that pretty soon. Again, we don't really have much in the way of money options to do that right now. You can see just how long it's going to take us to do these fields. Some nice panning shots. This is one of the things I do actually enjoy about having a controller for doing, for farming, is that with these analog sticks you can get a really nice, slow, controlled, smooth pan, rather than the kind of jerky movements that you would get if you're trying to pan around with a mouse. And that's one of the things where I do think the the console has a distinct advantage when it comes to just general gameplay over the PC, is that using a controller like this, just you can get some really nice visual movements. Of course, there's nothing to stop people in on a PC from using a controller themselves. A lot of people, I think, like having the additional functionality of a keyboard for all the different commands and controls. And I don't know, obviously there's a lot of people who use a wheel as well. The Cytec wheel is particularly popular as it was designed specifically for this game, with that wonderful side panel where you can program in all your different functions and really play as if you were actually in a tractor cab. But I don't know whether or not using a joypad or a D-pad on a PC would then stop you from being able to use a keyboard. So if you are a PC user and you have used a joypad, please do let me know on that. I'm really curious as to whether or not you can use the pad itself and still retain the functionality of having a keyboard as well, or whether switching to a pad gives you console-like control and you lose some of the lose some of the function and ability that you would get with the keyboard. Because I'm genuinely curious about that. I don't have a PC, I don't have the ability to check that myself, so if someone else could let me know on that, that would be fantastic. Oh, there we go, that's another 40,000 litres. So we haven't made a huge amount of progress on this harvest, and already we've got 80,000 litres worth of harvested sugarcane ready to go. We're going to fill this silo up really quickly. That's 10% of our silo already, just off those 2 rounds. That's 10% of our fill capacity. Although I do like the fact that we can actually unload 2 separate trailers at the same time, because the hydraulics are manually controlled rather than sort of the unload function that we get with standard trailers. It does mean that we can actually unload our product pretty quickly. We don't have to wait for one trailer to finish emptying before we then start the next one. And potentially that does mean that when it comes to selling, we could possibly do the same thing as well. And rather than selling, say, 20,000 litres and then a price drop when the trailer empties, even if it's just a small one, and then sell the next 20,000, we could actually sell 40,000 in one go by double unloading the trailers like that. And of course with larger trailers then we could sell even more, although once we'd finished, the price drop would be a lot more severe. I'm also kind of a little worried about clearance potentially being an issue in when we upgrade to the Massey trailers as well, because we don't have a huge amount of room if we get a little bit too close to these. You can actually see, that's quite a nice little thing, I've just noticed it as well. You can see on the trailer, look, the TT logo just cut out. There's a little gap there in the frame. That's quite nice. A few little nice screenshots there. Yeah, like I say, it's a shame that we can't hire a worker to actually run these trailers for us. Obviously, PC can use something like Follow Me, or they can use Courseplay, and they can actually do that, and then they can run the harvesters themselves. We don't have that luxury, unfortunately, on console, so it does require us to kind of forego the ability to actually operate the combine ourselves, unless we have somebody in multiplayer working with us. And I think that's a bit of a shame, really. I would love to be able to actually try driving that harvester, but with nothing to unload it into, I can't really go anywhere, and it's not like we can attach, you know, a lot of different trailers behind it, and they would fill up so quickly that we'd be stopping constantly as well. That's the other drawback, is that you know, it takes, you know, we'd end up, you know, just running out of stuff really, really quickly. And there's also the potential for crop damage as well. If you have something that's quite wide, it could damage the crop while you're driving manually, as opposed to the crop damage automatically turning off if you have an AI worker running through the field. So there are a lot of drawbacks, unfortunately, with the sugarcane itself. You know, we can't get as hands-on as we'd like to. There is a risk of crop destruction, you know, a lot more prominent if we do try and do things ourselves. And yeah, it's just a little cumbersome at times. You know, I do think, while it's a great addition, I do think it could perhaps have been implemented maybe a little bit better. I would like to be running the combine rather than just running, you know, the chaser bins. And as I say, PC players it's not an issue, but for console players it is a lot more of an issue, simply because of the way the system works and what we can and can't do. Right, now that he's turned around, I have to drive around again. This is cumbersome and awkward. We really, I think, need to have a better way of doing this. And what I'm thinking of perhaps trying next time round, once we've got a little bit of money, is actually setting up a conveyor tip point and just running a single trailer and then just tip onto the conveyor and let that feed all the way back down to the farm to the silo, so that we're able to keep running a lot more. That's something I'd like to try. It would mean a lot of conveyor belts, a huge number of conveyor belts, to be able to, you know, transfer that grain from here all the way back to the silo, and then that would assume that it would automatically tip into the silo as well. Yeah, I'm just definitely going to give that a try at some point, because I think that would be quite good. It makes me wonder where we're going to actually place our silos when we expand, and I'm thinking Field 4 is going to be maybe the prime location, assuming that the terrain is flat enough to allow us to actually place those without massive ramp extensions sticking out, you know, for, you know, a huge distance. Trying to hear you know, the distinguished difference between the harvester noise and the tractor. Can kind of make it out. And there we can see the cane there. Look, you can see it's dropping down and being fed onto the belt. Oh, maybe it's not a spiral then. Maybe it's just a feeding tube that's kind of just staggered. Hard to actually see the interior. You can see those rollers there forcing it down into the fill point there. Again, I can't really focus on where I'd like to focus. Because the camera is on the tractor and not the harvester. I'll see if I can get another shot as we go back down the field again. We're almost out of capacity again. These trailers do fill up very, very quickly. I think we might definitely need to see what we can do about that. Alright, so let's try and get another look at the inside of the combine. So yeah, you can see it's being fed through And it's not what I thought it was. I thought maybe this tank here was part of an auger system. I think we've just hit 40,000 again, haven't we? Yes, we have. So it looks as though it's fed through those crunchers into a little drop area, which then feeds onto the belt, which goes up and out the downspout. And then the rest is, you know, fed up through the top and spat out as the waste product. I really do like to get in close and have a look at the machinery in operation, and that's pretty much as close as I'm able to get until I can actually get my hands inside one and run it. And there we go, it's another 80,000 or 40,000 litres going into our storage. So this will put us at 120. Prices, as you can see, are not fantastic at the moment. But in theory, to make a profit, all we need to do, well, anything that we sell will be sold at a profit in a lot of respects, simply because, yeah, it's $340 for a pallet of 2,000 litres. So in theory, as long as we sell at 170, well, or more than 170 per 1,000 litres, we are making a profit. But it's actually a lot less than that, because that 1,000 litres, you know, at 170 is actually giving us 3 yields rather than just 1 yield. So really, you could say, as long as we sell more than at higher than a third of that, so the closest we could get to that would be 180. So we say 180 now, 3. That would be $60 per 1,000 litres. So you could argue that if we say drop that down a bit to say 73 and a bit, 74 is probably the closest we can get to actually having a definite number. As long as we were to sell 1,000 litres at more than $74, we're making a profit. So even though the prices are low, it is profitable to sell at just as low as 70 odd, just over $70 per 1,000 litres, because, as I say, each one of these fields will give us 3 separate yields. Of course, to actually make sure that profit holds true, you do actually have to run 3 separate harvests off a field before you replace it with something else or just replant. So if you're only running 1 or 2, then obviously you have to kind of adjust your figure a little bit. But even so, around $70 per 1,000 litres, that's a really low number. So even when the prices are crap and you're only getting, say, $160 per 1,000 litres, you're still making a substantial profit. You're still making double the cost of actually putting that sugarcane into the ground. And if you can get a price that's, 320, you're making 4 times how much it cost to actually put it in the ground, or 4 times the cost of the seed. So you're making a much more substantial profit, obviously the higher the sell price is. And the other great thing about sugarcane as well is that it's self-fulfilling. You need that initial investment of sugarcane, and then beyond that, you technically don't ever have to buy sugarcane again once you made your first planting, because you can take your harvested sugarcane and load it straight into a planter and plant it on another field. So you basically, you could say that you would never ever have to buy sugarcane again, although that is potentially a bit of a false economy, because if your crop is worth, say, 4 times what it would be to cost you at the store to buy it, why would you actually keep some? Why would you not just sell everything and then save yourself 75% by going back and just buying it at the store? 75% of the value of your sugarcane is saved that way. If you sell everything and then go back and just buy it really, really cheap from the store. There's different ways to approach it, but yeah, in theory, you could just sell what you need to sell. Keep what you need to replant your fields after every third round of harvesting. And you'll never ever have to pay for sugarcane ever again. All you'll need to do is just pay to keep it fertilised. And then obviously the wage costs for harvesting it as well. And that's going to be, unfortunately, substantial. Given how long it's going to take us to harvest these fields, the wage costs are going to be quite high. Because we're going to need a worker the whole time. Again, this is where multiplayer gives you a bit of an advantage. You're not paying the wages of whoever's running the harvester. So you're getting, a lot of work done for free, which is quite nice. This is why I really hope that some of those wonderful script mods out there, like Follow Me and Courseplay, can be brought over in some form or another to consoles for Farming Sim 19. There needs to be some kind of base program built into the base game that allows you to have a tractor run alongside a harvester to really get the most out of something like sugarcane. I've said it before. I mean, Farming Sim 16, you could run the harvester and then you would honk the horn when your grain tank was full, and a nearby tractor would literally just drive onto the field, pull up alongside you, you could empty, and then you could carry on harvesting. Why something like that isn't possible in Farming Sim 17, the full version of the game, rather than a mobile version, is beyond me. It really is. When a simple honk of the horn will pull a trailer up to unload you, why, on a mobile game, why can we not get something, even just as simplistic as that, but, ideally much more in depth? Why can we not get that included in the base game for the full blown game, on PC and console? It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. So yeah, I would love to see some of those programs incorporated in some way, shape or form, even if they're really stripped down to really basic functionality, where you can maybe only run one single vehicle with Follow Me as opposed to a conga of multiple vehicles, and they have a set distance that can't be edited. Just something simple, like activate, follow, and that's it. Something like that needs to be brought over. It really does. And there we go. It's our fourth batch of sugarcane. We're up to 160,000 litres harvested now. We're making slow progress on the field, but I mean, we've been going for half an hour now, and we still haven't made that big a dent in the field in the grand scheme of things. And we have field 1 to go after this as well. It's going to be a long time until we've finished our sugarcane harvest. I guess we'll probably continue this over a couple of different episodes. We'll see where we end up. I am obviously very wary of the fact that a lot of this footage is going to become very repetitive. So I don't want to just completely bore you to tears with just seeing the same thing for 2 hours or 3 hours or however long it takes us to get done. But I am hoping that we can make some really substantial money. I just really hope we get a nice big sugarcane harvest. Sugarcane great demand once we've finished our harvest, where we can just sell the whole lot for an extortionately large amount of money. That would be very, very nice indeed, especially seeing as we didn't really get to capitalise on the last one. We'd already sold pretty much all of our sugarcane, and then we got a great demand for the little bit that we had left. I'd rather like to think that we will get a second bite at that cherry, and we'll get a nice great demand for a very large volume of sugarcane. which is what we're going to really need. Because we are going to need another injection of cash pretty soon if we want to really start upgrading our equipment. And more pressing than that is we need more land. We desperately need more land to work so that we can raise money from traditional crops while our sugarcane is going through the various different stages that the sugarcane goes through. So, because each cycle takes two growth cycles before it does anything, we desperately need more than just one field for our crop. Now I've managed to get field 3 discounted a little bit. Field 15 is now fully discounted at around 330 to 340,000, I think. That's a very large amount of money. It's way more than we can afford right now. But that would be one ideally that I'd like to buy. And we've also got fields 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 I think is going to cost us around about 100,000, maybe a little bit less. I think I can still do a little bit more work to bring that one down a little bit more. And field 5 would be even cheaper than that because it's a smaller field. So we could run those as crop fields until we have the money to buy additional storage facilities, if we do decide to actually place them there. They are expensive as well. Well, 190,000 I think it was, or 182 or something like that. It was around 180 to 190,000 when we bought that silo just there. So we're going to need another 2 of those at least, probably maybe 3. So we're talking another 500,000 easy. That's a lot of money, and that's just on 3 silos. I think what we may well have to do is kind of just advance time an awful lot between a few episodes, just to make a lot of real progress. I'm going to have to harvest, and contract like crazy as well to raise the kind of money we need. To sort of, increase our land mass as well. It's I mean, I don't mind doing it, but it's a bit of a shame that we are kind of in that position. And I suppose I probably shouldn't have gone for sugarcane like this quite so soon. But having said that, I mean, this is a farm designed to show off what we get with the new farm, with the new expansion. You get to see the new sugarcane trailers, the harvesters, the planters. That was the whole purpose of running this particular farm, not as a long-term, project like we've been doing with Mustang Valley and Big Bud Farm there, but something designed to kind of show off all of this, new stuff. So there is going to come a time when we will close this farm down and move on to something different, free up that slot for a different Let's Play series, a different farm. Maybe something like Gorala, if that has, if that makes it, or New Bartelshagen, or more likely the Valley, the old farm. And of course, West Coast will be coming as well. So yeah, lots and lots of options going forward. We do still have progress that we need to make on this farm before we can get to that point, though. And what I may well do as well is I may well take a break from this farm once we reach a certain point, do a lot of stuff off camera, and then come back for season 2, after a couple of months off, and really get the plantation kicked up into into top overdrive, into top gear, with multiple silos, multiple sugarcane fields, and lots of other fields all planted around as well. The other option, which I could possibly do, something I'm not overly keen on, is I could mod some money in. We are playing on normal, so the money mod would work on this farm. So I've been avoiding doing that so far, but if you guys wanted to see us make a lot of sort of rapid progress then that's something that we could also do, is we could just mod a bit of money in to buy some extra fields and get the silos set up. So let me know your thoughts on maybe modding in a load of extra money at some point in the future, sort of between Season 1 and Season 2, so to speak. If you are firmly opposed against it, then we will not do that, and I will just continue to keep grinding out money with contracting missions, some of which you may see, most of which you probably won't. And we will just add little bits of land to our farm bit by bit by bit. We are closing in on yet another 40,000 litres done. And there we go. So this will be 200,000 litres. Let's just nip down here. 200,000 litres of sugarcane. That's a lot, and we're still nowhere near finishing this field either. And this is a field that is fully fertilised and ploughed as well, so you know, it's the maximum possible yield that we're going to get off this field. We see a little bit of free advertising for Art Mechanic there with his name, his name badge slapped all over the side of the silo. Oh, I'm just looking at how much sugarcane we've got left, and this is after 40 minutes of harvesting. Now, we've not done a massive amount, not as much as I would hope we would have been able to get done. I suppose that was inevitable, really. Let's make that turn around. And we still haven't cut the grass yet either. That's something else that we need to get done at some point. I think maybe I might invest in some sheep, because they're relatively low maintenance. We just need to keep them fed with grass or hay, make sure they have water, and then we can just leave them to their own devices, and they will start producing wool, which can sell for incredibly high amounts. So I think maybe we need to look at getting some sheep up and running on our farm pretty quickly, just to bring in an extra source of money. The problem is that sheep are not cheap at 4,000 each, so to make money you have to invest quite a substantial amount. Just 10 sheep is 40,000, plus if you don't have a trailer, an extra 4,000 as a 10% delivery charge. Then you need the water trailer if you don't have one of those, so that's another 8 to 10,000 depending on which trailer you go with. So now you're up to 54,000 or 52,000, you know, somewhere in that region. We'll say 52,000, and that's only 10 sheep, so they're slow to breed. They're not going to reproduce very quickly, so you're going to be stuck with 10 for a very, very long time before you get, you know, number 11. And with numbers that low, they're not going to produce wool particularly quickly either, so it's going to be a long time before you start to see any kind of real return on your investment. So really, you need a lot more than just 10 sheep to get you started. You probably ideally need around 50 sheep, I would say. So now you're looking at 5 times that. You're looking at $250,000 as an investment in the livestock and with the water trailer. And then you need the mowers and maybe a baler or a way to collect the grass. Now we have a loading wagon already, so we can kind of scratch that one off as well, but we'd need the mowers. And then maybe we'd need a field that we could just keep mowing to maximise that. So all of a sudden, we're talking 300,000 plus the potential cost of a field. That's a lot of money, you know, to just pull out of nowhere just to make $8,000 for a crate of wool. So it's, you know, it's crazy how much you kind of have to invest before you actually start to get some kind of return with livestock. Once you've got them up and running and established, they will make you, you know, some very tidy money. But getting to that point is not cheap. Not cheap at all. And I think I may have to turn off crop growth as well, just to make sure that by the time we've actually finished harvesting not just the rest of this field but all of that field as well, that we don't actually have anything else start to grow in the same process, because that would then be quite awkward with crop growing at different rates. I don't like to see that. I don't like to have fields that are in different states of growth. It just looks and feels kind of wrong. Visually, it certainly doesn't look very good. Make the turn again. Definitely slow process and slow progress as well. But we've made a decent sort of impact. I mean, you consider we've done obviously what you can see here going across the field. We've also done a couple of rows on the other end of the field, and we've done a few passes as a headland. So it's not quite as little as it looks in terms of the progress that we've made, but it has taken us 45 minutes to get to this point. So there's, I'd say, probably, let's see how much distance into the field. We're about maybe maybe a quarter of the way through the field. If you take the headland into consideration and the other side as well, we're about a quarter of the way through the field. So at that rate, at this pace, it's going to take us 4 episodes at around 45 minutes an episode to harvest this particular farm, no, this particular field. Then we have field 1 to do as well. So I'm going to continue harvesting this field off camera. I will come back as we're sort of finishing off this field and ready to move on to field 1, and that's where we'll pick up from. So we'll have another episode of sugarcane harvesting when you come back. It'll be finishing this one off and starting on field 1, and we'll see how much we've made off of field 2 from a single harvest. I'm hoping, you know, it'll be well, I know it's going to be a lot. I'm hoping that we'll have a really nice price, maybe even a great demand that we can respond to at the same time as well. So thanks for watching. I am Jim Bob, and as I almost fill up with my $240,000 or 240,000 litre amount, I will leave you and see you back here on Estancia Lapacho very soon.